My question is on behalf of Lambie Superannuation Fund. My partner and I lost our New South Wales South Coast home to the devastating climate-driven megafires of 3 years ago. Since then, I've done all I can to... Since then, I've done all I can to prevent what happened to us from happening to others. Commbank is Australia's largest home lender, with mortgages being 62% of its whole portfolio. Its latest climate report says that 5% of these loans are already highly exposed to acute physical risks from climate change. Just this 5% is $31 billion. At the same time, the bank has just $1 billion loaned to new or expanding fossil fuel projects. But loans like this bring on global warming of 2+ degrees. In other words, the failure of the Paris Agreement. Such failure brings even greater risk to Commbank's home loan portfolio. So there is clearly a moral and also a very rational reason for Commbank to end finance for fossil fuel companies expanding the scale of that industry. Please tell me, a home loser, I watched it burn down before my eyes, how the bank justifies continuing to finance companies like Santos and Glencore when its shareholders' money and my and many other people's homes on the line.
Mr. Egan, firstly, I'm very sorry to hear of your loss. I can't imagine how devastating that must have been, but we acknowledge that the fires caused a lot of loss, and you've seen that personally. So, firstly, just my acknowledgement of that harm. In relation to specific client matters, I've mentioned we won't talk to that. I'm going to get Matt to talk, though, to what the bank did specifically after the fires and the floods to support our customers, because I think that's an important aspect that your question raises. As I've said in our climate report, we have set that 1.5 degree ambition, and answering Ms McKenzie a moment ago, it's not easy to get there. We are going to have to work extremely hard and engage with customers, both large customers who may be emitting customers and customers like yourself who are affected, and make sure that the care to those affected is real, but that the transition necessary for Australia to meet its targets is also achieved. We are committed to that. Our first climate report, I think, demonstrates significant focus by the bank on how important it is for us to set those targets and work out how to get to those targets. But I think it's really important that Matt be given the opportunity to talk about how we are demonstrating care in the real-time situation that you've experienced.
Oh, thanks, Chair. And look, Mr. Egan, I again want to pass on my sorrow at hearing that story, and you know, unfortunately, we did support and see a number of customers who were devastated by the bushfires that you mentioned. And look, of course, our role is here to support customers through those challenging circumstances, but you know, I think it's very hard to offer sufficient support that would ever sort of offset a loss like that. And so, I mean, from our perspective, clearly supporting our customers through emergency, either fires, flooding, severe weather events, is a huge priority of that for us. You saw some of that in the introductory video. I think perhaps also going just to the essence of your question, I mean, you're quite right insofar as lending to fossil fuels, as you mentioned, is a very, very small part of our overall lending. And the reason, the way we think about it in the context of the Chair's mentioned, the climate report, we believe we have to act responsibly in Australia's best interests, and we believe that includes being science-led, being very clear and transparent about particular scenarios, in this case to 1.5 degrees. We don't think it's a better outcome for the country to just remove all financing, even though, as you said, it's a very small proportion of our financing. We think it's a much better approach consistent and transparent to support Australia's transition and try to deliver the best overall outcomes. That's at the absolute forefront of our thinking. And I think at least this year, a significant amount of work has gone into that transparency. We're going to build out the glide paths and, as the Chair mentioned, a particular focus in the next 12 months on scenarios that are specific to Australia, and that's with Australia's peak science agency, the CSIRO. And I think that enables us to then play a leadership role. We certainly would strive to. And as you mentioned, and we disclosed this year in the climate report, as you quite rightly said, there's about 5% of our home lending portfolio, which is a significant portfolio for the Commonwealth Bank, we would consider to be at high risk, primarily through flooding. So, of course, that's a significant concern for us into the future, both at an aggregate level as well as at an individual customer level. And we're very conscious as we go into a time of year which is typically, unfortunately, also accompanied by severe weather events, and we're very conscious of the significant sort of flood risk in the coming weeks. And so I can assure you that a number of the issues that you raise are absolutely at the forefront of our thinking as we strive to get the most balanced and overall approach for the country.